All right. Welcome back to the tier list. For those of you who are new or don't know, this is a tier list of all of the FromSoft bosses from Dark Souls 1 all the way to Elden Ring, minus Sekiro and Demon Souls, because I haven't beaten or played either one respectively, I should say. And the past two videos I covered Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 bosses, where I ranked them, why I ranked them, and all that fun stuff. But now we are going to be tackling Bloodborne before we tackle Dark Souls 3 to keep in chronological order. And I also want to make this a point. The criteria, or what I explain the tier list to be, or what it means, is all on the first video on Dark Souls 1. Just at least watch the intro if you need to see it to understand. If you don't want to, and you probably got a good idea what I'm saying, of course, you know, just stick around. But yeah, we're nearing the end. We have Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring to tackle, and hopefully by the time I do get to Elden Ring, I have played Demon Souls through and through. I just need a, PS5 to play the remade version, and I don't have a PS3 to play the OG. And hopefully it doesn't taint my experience. I know some people like to say the remake is worse or whatever, but I don't really care. It doesn't make that big of a difference to me, but we'll see. Now, Bloodborne is a game that I have interesting thoughts on. I think boss-wise, it's a very weak game until you get to the DLC. And if you couldn't tell by the list, the DLCs in the last two games, Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, carry the boss's quality for a pretty decently high extent. And it's most likely going to be the same for Bloodborne. Spoiler warning, by the way. But we'll get through it. I'm a fan of Bloodborne. I love Bloodborne as a whole. The game isn't completely about bosses, which is nice, but, doesn't stop my criticisms. And also, as another thing, if you look down here, these are all the dungeon bosses, right? These are all bosses that you can only fight in the Chalice dungeons, and they're not their own fights. They will not be counted on here. We're going to talk about the main game bosses, and whether optional or not, are actual bosses in the main game itself that aren't part of the Chalice dungeons. So let's start. One Reborn. The fight is... I don't know what to make of the fight. I would say, like, meh, but, like, right here. It's a Tower Knight ripoff. And is just, like, a weird amalgamation of body parts that don't have really much substance to it in terms of fighting. Like, you're not really engaging too much with the mechanics. You kind of just get behind it and smack its ass every once in a blue moon, which I guess is kind of fun, and if you decide to do it later on, you can get through the fight pretty quickly. But I never really cared or liked the One Reborn as a fight. I just found it to be kind of annoying and in the way, and all that fun stuff. Abretus. I think it's a pretty good fight. I would probably put it, like, here. The lore is awesome. The boss room is awesome. The fight itself is pretty cool. The only issue that I do have with it is she is unbelievably strong for no reason. I don't understand that philosophy with Bloodborne. There are some enemies on there, or on this game, that just will not be that hard to fight, but can just two-tap you, because why not? And Abretus kind of falls under that category, at least for me when I fight her. But I will say, I do like fighting her. Engaging with her mechanics are really fun. Even though it's kind of just like a, dash and dodge to the right kind of ordeal, and that's about it. I still enjoy the fight, and I still go out of my way to do it. Yes, even if you have to beat the Celestial Emissary to get there. Mikolash is meh. Probably like next to Dark Sun Gwendolyn. But I just like the area better. They're basically the same fight. They kind of run away from you, and you kind of have to catch up to them to hurt them. At some point, though, when you do fight Mikolash, he will stop running away from you, and you will just have to fight him outright. But Mikolash has, like, 3 moves. He will run to the other side of the arena, he'll shoot a tentacle attack and spam an AoE attack that can damn near one-shot you. It's almost like they kind of ran out of creativity for the fight, and to make the fight at least interesting to do against him, they were just like, nah, we're gonna give him 3 moves. Each of those 3 moves are going to hit incredibly fucking hard, and are just weird and spammy. That's it. That's pretty bad in my opinion, but I love the whole nightmare area when you fight him in it. And I do really like that. I do really like that. Murgo's Wet Nurse, I think, is an average fight. It's kind of just like this sloggy, moving, like, appendages. The lore is there. The music, which I think is really cool, is there. I do like the boss arena, and I do like the cutscene that is with Murgo's Wet Nurse, but the fight itself is very bland and boring, and even when it picks up when she summons like a second version of herself, it's pretty easy to dodge, and she's basically free blood, like blood echoes. You just get behind her back and just smack her booty like a million times, and then she'll eventually just die. Amygdala. I actually really enjoy this fight. I wouldn't put it high, but I would put it here. Amygdala is pretty fun to fight if you're not just, swinging at the fucking legs, which I think is pretty dumb. If you engage with their mechanics very well, look for the parry windows, and go for, like, the viscerals to the head, the fight can stay really engaging, and I never not had a bad time against her. I also love the lore with Amygdala, and I do love the fact that we actually do get to fight one after seeing one all the time in the game. So, big ups for me. I do love Amygdala. Mortal Ligarius, I think is the best main game fight. I'll probably put here. It might go in amazing, I'm not sure yet. But it's, in my opinion, the best main game fight. He has a very interesting moveset. A well-crafted one, too, at that. And his second phase is like a more chaotic version where he stabs the sword down to the ground, and it can shoot projectiles constantly at you until you break it or whatever. You have like very generous visceral windows and very, very well and put together like generous hitboxes between your dashes. It's a fun fight. I always enjoyed doing it, and the run back isn't too bad either. It's an awesome fight. Kanehurst is the Anorlando of Bloodborne. Gehrman. I really like Gehrman, but I would probably put him here. I think as a fight and lore, boss arena, music, everything is just fine. What I like about the fight is that it's not weak on any fronts. And I think that is important when playing a game like Bloodborne. And I feel like the payoff with Gehrman was great. I just don't think he's as fun to fight as Mortal Ligarius, and that's the only reason why he's behind him. But I enjoy the fight through and through. Nothing bad to say. Moon Presence. It's an average fight. The design of the boss is really cool, and the lore behind it's really cool. The cutscene is really cool, but it's sharing a boss arena. It's like the Aldia to Dark Souls 2's Nassandra, and I'm not really the biggest fan of the fight overall. It's not really that engaging, and it's just like a beast boss that runs at you and swings its, appendages at you as many times as it feels like, and that's about as far as it goes. However, the Moon Presence can be fun sometimes, but it just all depends. I don't mind doing the fight, but I will never go out of my way to collect 3 umbilical cords to do a fight that I don't really care about too much all the time. Ludwig. Hot take. I think Ludwig at the very... Oh, shit. I think Ludwig at the very least is an amazing fight, right? Like, I'm not gonna dispute that. I think it's an amazing fight. Here's the problem with Ludwig. It's his fucking first phase. I don't know what it is, and I'm still trying to figure it out right now. But trying to fight him in his first phase is like RNG based. You have to kind of get in there and start swinging at him and pray to God that you get enough swings off, or his like poise window is lower. because he will spam fuck you and you can't do anything about it. He has weird overarching attacks that are really hard to properly dodge, and even if you properly dodge, a lingering hitbox will still be there, especially when he does a swipe. His leap attack and drop down is incredibly annoying to deal with. It's like he toggles on aim assist and almost never misses, and if your health is any lower than like 30 on the vitality scale, then you're just dead. You get one-shotted by it, and I think it's really dumb. Aside from that, I do like the first phase quite a bit. I love the music, love the arena. The lore is chef's kiss. Arguably some of the best that you will see in the series. However, his second phase, one of the best fights in the series. You get a character that realizes the blade's been with him all this time, and he kind of fights again in a more human form, and he no longer like grunts or growls. He has like a human voice attached to him. He has very, very engaging and well put together hitboxes. They're very generous. The mechanics with him, like going in and out and staying on his ass, kind of, but not enough to where it would be a pain in the ass to you, I think is amazing. Now, here's my thing. If this fight, let's say when you first fight Ludwig, and you bring him down to half, and he brings out the Holy Blade, that is where I wish they moved the health bar back up to full, because I feel like the fight became a little too short. When you fight him in that second phase, dude, it is so fucking fun. And I absolutely love it. I enjoy it. Ludwig is, I think, my number 2 or number 3 of all time when it comes to Bloodborne, but we'll have to see. Living Failures is meh. No, it's a poor fight, but I'll put it here. The Living Failures have great lore. The arena is kind of cool, and it's like just it's like a weird palate cleanser fight that just has to happen before you fight Lady Maria, and it's like a one thing after another. Like, the Living Failures don't get like a proper build up, and I feel like that kind of is the biggest thing that drags it down. Also, it's a congregational fight, and it's not really that good of one either. And the meteor attack can fuck off. It's not a very interesting fight, not a well-engaged fight, and if I could skip it in the game, I would. The Cleric Beast. The optional tutorial boss fight is an average, but I would probably put right about here. I never really cared for the fight, even when I first played through it. It kind of felt like I was just doing a endurance, like, test against him, and I'm just sitting behind him smacking his ass the whole time. It's the same issue with Murgo's Wet Nurse, but make a boss way less interesting. That's kind of how it is. But he doesn't do anything inoffensive, so I can't really say that he's meh or poor or trash. Lady Maria. This is the best fight in Bloodborne, hands down. The Lady Maria, who is like the OG Melania or OG Sister Fried, with the 3 phases of Sister Fried and the blood arts from Melania, is probably one of the most interesting fights that you will ever have, as it is basically a traditional hunter fight, but done in a way that is very satisfying, and you don't need to use your gun. You can use your wits, you can use your speed, you can dash and dodge everything in like this perfect manner. It is a fantastic fight. I absolutely enjoyed Lady Maria, her 3rd phase being my favorite, and being able to fight her with Ludwig's Holy Blade at +9, +10, whatever you may have it at that point, really seals the deal for me. It's an awesome fight. Lawrence. I can go the rest of my life not doing this fight. It's literally the Cleric Beast, but give it more health and a shitty second phase with lingering hitboxes that hit you from 10 miles away, and it cuts off the arena in such an abysmally shit way compared to how Quelaag does it, that it really kind of takes away from the fight. I will say, though, lore-wise, it's really cool, and it's sharing the same arena as Vicar Amelia makes sense. I'm just not a fan of a boss that has lingering hitboxes that you can't properly dodge through, and a boss fight that has a second phase that is overly spammy and you will never ever get a shot in. I don't like waiting for ages to hit somebody. I'm not playing Hollow Knight, I'm playing Dark Souls, and I think that is an issue with, not Dark Souls, Bloodborne. So I think that's probably the biggest issue with this fight, personally. Orphan of Kos, hardest fight in the game, and an amazing one at that. I'll probably put it towards the bottom of amazing, though. I do like Orphan of Kos. It's a fantastic fight, a really good, well-paced fight, and even in its second phase, it can keep you on your toes, but if you stay on point with your dodges and you know where to swipe, when to fight, and it's not like, it's like an endurance fight, and you can actually, you know, fight them, not like Lawrence where you have to wait until they're done feeling like spamming and you get that 1 second time window to hit them once. Yeah, that's how I feel about Orphan of Kos. They did a really good job. This was like, in my opinion, the prototype to what Gale will be in Dark Souls 3, as a battle of endurance and high, like this high octane fight. I do think that the difficulty of the fight is a little overrated. I'm actually going to throw this fight here. I do think that the difficulty of this fight is a little overrated, but it is a pretty difficult fight, and doing it with Ludwig's Holy Blade makes the fight go from difficult, like incredibly difficult, to somewhat still difficult but fun. So use that as you will with Orphan of Kos. Father Gascoigne, the actual tutorial boss of the game that teaches you how to both deal with beasts and how to deal with hunters. I honestly think it's a better pursuer for what the game was going for. Gascoigne has great lore. He has a solid second phase. He's the first boss, I think, in the series that talks to you while fighting it, and I think that's a pretty cool addition to the game. I mean, he doesn't directly talk to you, but he'll be like, "What's that smell?" or something along those lines as you're fighting him, which I think is pretty cool. The tombstones, the music. The reason why I like the tombstones so much is because of how it helps the fight flow. Like, because sometimes trying to dodge his bullets is like trying to dodge a bullet in real life. And Father Gascoigne, having those tombstones there really makes the fight like give a creative edge in how you want to approach it. And I think they do an incredible job with Father Gascoigne. Not to mention, it has generous visceral windows and generous hitboxes. Nothing bad that I can say about Father Gascoigne at all. It's a solid fight. Blood-Starved Beast, I can safely say I don't like the fight very much. I would honestly probably put it here. Blood-Starved Beast just dies too quickly on a normal run now, but when I first fought the Blood-Starved Beast, getting it to its phase where you even come close to it, you get slow poisoned, I think is stupid. I'm not trying to balance blood vials and antidotes early on in a game where you really don't get a lot of those. And I feel like they didn't really do a good job on that with this boss, because they realized, oh, players could probably stun lock this boss. Maybe just make the boss more interesting instead of, you know, having it drop poison wherever it feels like. That's my biggest issue with Blood-Starved Beast. But as an overall fight, it's still pretty inoffensive. Like, I don't hate the fight, or I don't think it's a fight that is worthy of harsh criticism. What do we got? Vicar Amelia. Vicar Amelia is a, like, average fight, probably, like, right here. The reason why is because Vicar Amelia has, again, the big issue of lingering hitboxes, and because Bloodborne plays on 30 FPS, this boss fight, it gets paced on, like, 15 FPS because they try to make it pretty grandiose. Not to mention, it is a fight that, has the same theme song as the Cleric Beast, so it docks points for being an uncreative boss when it comes to music. But I will say I do like the design of Vicar Amelia, and the run back to the fight isn't bad, so I can't really hate it. But it's there, and that's about as far as it goes. Witch of Hemwick is the worst fight in the game, in my honest opinion. Or no, it's the second worst fight. The worst one will be coming soon. But I would probably put it like right here. The Witch of Hemwick just is boring. That's it. You just beat on her or try to find her when she goes invisible, while there is you know, those little shadow dudes, not little, but those shadow dudes that spawn in to fight you. And I never cared for that in the slightest. I just find that to be very annoying and boring. Dark Beast Parl, I would love to enjoy this fight more, and I'm actually going to give it a rating, yes, above Lawrence. I know some people are going to be like, what the fuck? The problem with Dark Beast Parl is mainly when you do fight Dark Beast Parl, he has, like, no health. You could kill him in like 3 or 4 hits, but I've actually fought Dark Beast Parl with a much weaker weapon to get the full extent of the moveset, and it's a very generous, well-crafted beast fight that I feel like deserves more love and attention. Unfortunately, it's a telegraphy fight where after about getting it to its like halfway point with its health, the fight really doesn't change, and it's just going to get repetitive, which is why I threw it down in average. But he is also the reason why that you do get bolt papers, so make sure you do kill him in all of your runs. I think that's enough for average. Shadows of Yharnam, in my opinion, the worst version of Ruined Sentinels, but they're roughly around the same in terms of, like, just as a boss fight. The Ruined Sentinels do one thing very well, and is make the fight break-upable. Like, you'll fight one on a ledge, and then you'll fight the next 2 that come up, but you'll fight one by itself before the second one comes up for a little while, giving you time to actually properly deal with them, and that's cool. Their issue, though, is that the Ruined Sentinels have an issue of overlapping attacks, whereas Shadows of Yharnam doesn't have that. They can get spammy, but it's nowhere near as bad as Ruined Sentinels. It's just in a less creative arena, and you have to fight them around one shoddily hitbox-leveled tombstone that they can still cast shit through or hit you through, which I don't really like. Also, the second phase makes this fight more difficult, and trying to isolate one is impossible. So yeah, I still think it's a good fight, though. I think also, if we're going to be honest here, out of these two, which one has the worst run back? You would hands down say Shadows of Yharnam. Absolutely, through and through. Rom, this is the worst fight in Bloodborne, but it's not trash. I would put it here. I don't like this fight, right? I think the fight sucks. The reason why is Rom has no attacks up close and will spam fuck you when you have a teleport and you're trying to get rid of the spiders around you, and it's not in a fun and an engaging way. It's kind of just a either at best boring and repetitive, or at worst incredibly frustrating experience, just for you to get up to Rom and beat the shit out of him, for her or him, I don't know the gender of the spider, for a little bit, just for it to disappear again, and then you have to rinse and repeat. And the spiders aren't like the spiders against the Duke's Dear Freya, where they are somewhat passive but can close in on you. No, they'll just leap at you and they can two-shot you if you're not careful. And it's not very fun. Not very fun. It's very not fun. Celestial Emissary, this is also a poor fight. Actually, no, I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna throw out the bottom of meh, because their lore, in my opinion, is much better than the Living Failures, and the run back isn't a big deal. And also, when I do decide to fight the Celestial Emissaries, I basically like 2-tap them, so I don't have to deal with it for as long. But it's like the predecessor to the Deacons of the Deep, but done in a less fun fashion. So there's just meh, though. I would prefer to do this fight over every Bloodborne fight in Poor. And that's about it. That's all the Bloodborne bosses. We kind of ran through that pretty quickly. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content, or enjoy my explanations of the bosses, yada yada yada. When it comes around, Dark Souls 3 will be coming up, and then after Dark Souls 3, we're going to tackle Elden Ring, and Elden Ring's going to get a little bit complicated, so I will explain what bosses we are using and what not for Elden Ring's ranking. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making this, and I will see you guys later. Peace.